Her daughter went missing on a road trip, but 8 years later, the mother spots a biker at a pub and notices something shocking: a pair of unmistakable blue eyes staring back from a tattoo that shattered 8 years of silence and ignited a mother's unyielding fight for justice. Diana Matthews sat in the stifling Arizona heat outside the Copper Canyon police station, her hands clutching a worn manila folder that held the faded remnants of her daughter Emma's life, when a single glance at a biker's forearm tattoo in a dusty roadside pub revealed eyes she had mourned for nearly a decade. The discovery transformed her from a grieving mother chasing ghosts into a determined warrior unraveling a hidden network of human trafficking that stretched across the American Southwest. This journey echoed the true historical resilience of mothers like those in the Mothers of the Plaza de Mayo in Argentina during the 1970s and 1980s Dirty War, who marched weekly in white headscarves demanding answers about their disappeared children abducted by the military junta, their persistent protests eventually exposing thousands of cases of state-sponsored disappearances and forced adoptions. Just as those Argentine mothers turned personal agony into collective action against tyranny, Diana's quiet persistence uncovered a modern horror where young women vanished from isolated gas stations along interstate highways, much like the patterns seen in real-world cases documented by organizations such as the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Philosophically, this narrative draws from the ancient Stoic teachings of Epictetus, who emphasized focusing on what is within our control, our responses, our courage, our love, rather than external circumstances, reminding us that true freedom emerges not from safety, but from the refusal to surrender hope. In today's world, where human trafficking remains a tragic reality affecting millions according to United Nations reports, Diana's story holds profound modern relevance, teaching English learners the power of descriptive language. Words like unyielding, never giving way, steadfast, and the idiom chasing ghosts, pursuing something illusory or lost, help articulate emotional depth while building vocabulary for discussing social issues in conversations, essays, or advocacy. Vividly, Diana's trembling fingers traced Emma's age progression photo, her own blue eyes mirroring the ones inked on the biker's skin, evoking a visceral maternal bond that no time or trauma could erase. As she drove through the desert landscape toward the Desert Moon Motel, memories flooded back. The laughter-filled road trip to California, the ordinary stop at a Nevada gas station where Emma stepped into the bathroom and vanished without a trace, leaving only silence and unanswered questions. Diana's emotional arc evolved from raw despair to calculated resolve, each dead-end interview with skeptical detectives reinforcing her inner strength, much like historical figures such as Harriet Tubman, who risked everything on the Underground Railroad to free enslaved people, embodying the universal wisdom that one person's courage can dismantle systems of oppression. For English learners, mastering advanced structures like complex sentences with subordinate clauses, although the detective's tone was gentle, Diana recognized the dismissal in his eyes, enhances narrative skills and critical thinking, connecting language study to real-life empowerment. The philosophical lesson here is that persistence in the face of systemic indifference is not mere stubbornness, but a profound act of love and justice. What seemingly impossible search in your own life deserves the same unyielding dedication that Diana showed, turning personal loss into a beacon for others. The evening at the Roadrunner pub shifted from mundane exhaustion to heart-stopping revelation when Diana's gaze locked onto the detailed tattoo of a woman's face on the forearm of a rugged Iron Wolves MC lieutenant named Viper, those piercing blue eyes identical in shade, shape, and haunting depths to her missing daughter Emma's. Seated at the bar nursing a soda while her burger grew cold, Diana observed the biker's commanding presence, the leather vests patched with club insignia, faded tattoos telling stories of hard living, and the subtle deference from locals and staff alike. Mike, the bartender's lowered voice warning, "Best to keep your distance," only heightened her suspicion as he revealed the tattoo depicted Crystal, Viper's so-called girlfriend who worked at the notorious Dollhouse, a gentleman's club outside town limits that locals whispered was a thinly veiled brothel. The advanced English vocabulary word sinister, threatening evil or harm, perfectly captures the undercurrent Diana felt, while the idiom set off alarm bells, suddenly caused suspicion or worry. describes how that single tattoo ignited her instincts honed over 8 years of self-directed investigation. Historically, this moment parallels the courage of activists like those in the anti-slavery movement of the 19th century, where figures such as Frederick Douglass used personal testimony and persistent advocacy to expose the horrors of chattel slavery, much as Diana's quiet observation began dismantling a contemporary trafficking ring operating in the shadows of desert highways. Philosophically, drawing from Plato's allegory of the cave, Diana emerged from the darkness of uncertainty into the painful light of truth, choosing to act rather than remain chained by doubt or official skepticism. In modern relevance, amid rising awareness of human trafficking fueled by social media campaigns and documentaries, this chapter teaches English learners idiomatic expressions like playing it cool, acting calm to avoid suspicion, and nuanced storytelling techniques that build fluency for discussing sensitive topics in global forums or support groups. Emotionally, Diana's development deepened as suppressed grief surged into protective fury. She recalled tucking Emma's photo into her purse each morning like a talisman, her husband's death 6 years prior leaving her to shoulder the search alone after selling their Seattle home to fund endless travels. Vivid character moments unfolded as she discreetly followed the bikers' roaring motorcycles from the pub, her rental car trailing at a safe distance through winding desert roads until the neon glow of the dollhouse appeared, its pink silhouette sign promising entertainment while concealing exploitation. Parking on a ridge with binoculars in hand, Diana witnessed women being escorted between buildings in a fenced compound, one figure's hesitant gait. The same slight imbalance from childhood, confirming in her mother's heart that Emma lived. Tears streamed down her face in the darkness, a cathartic release blending joy with rage at the years stolen. This emotional growth mirrored universal wisdom from Buddhist teachings on impermanence and compassion, urging us to transform suffering into purposeful action. For English practice, analyzing descriptive passages rich in sensory details, the roar of engines echoing across the asphalt, the acrid smell of exhaust mixing with desert dust, sharpens observational writing skills essential for academic and professional communication. The profound message is that a single unexpected detail, like a tattooed pair of eyes, can pierce through years of silence and demand that we confront uncomfortable truths. Have you ever ignored a subtle sign in your life that later proved to be the key to unlocking a greater purpose or healing? Inside the pulsing chaos of the dollhouse, Diana's bold deception as a scout for high-end clients allowed her access to a private presentation room where young women, including her daughter Emma, now called Crystal, were paraded like merchandise under dim lights and crude sales pitches, exposing the brutal machinery of a human trafficking operation tied to the Iron Wolves. The air thick with perfume, sweat, and desperation, Diana maintained a facade of detached professionalism while her heart fractured at the sight of Emma, thinner, wearier, yet bearing the same striking blue eyes and familiar posture, standing under the spotlight with downcast gaze and practiced submission. Advanced vocabulary such as facade, a false or deceptive appearance, and the idiom keeping a stiff upper lip, remaining brave in difficult circumstances, illustrate Diana's internal battle, skills that English learners can adopt to express resilience in personal narratives or professional discussions. Historically, this horror resonates with the documented realities of the white slave trade in the early 20th century, where organized networks lured or abducted young women into brothels across Europe and America, prompting international conventions like the 1904 International Agreement for the Suppression of the White Slave Traffic that laid groundwork for modern anti-trafficking laws. Philosophically, Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia, human flourishing through virtue and moral courage, shines through Diana's choice to risk everything rather than retreat, teaching that genuine happiness arises from ethical action even amid personal peril. Modern relevance abounds in today's fight against sex trafficking, supported by NGOs like Polaris Project, where survivor testimonies and persistent advocacy drive policy changes, reminding English learners that mastering persuasive language, using rhetorical devices like repetition, "I never stopped looking, not for a single day," empowers voices in advocacy campaigns and public speaking. Vividly, When Emma was announced as one of our most requested companions, Diana stifled a gasp, shrinking into shadows to avoid recognition while memorizing every detail. The vacant expressions of other women, some clearly drugged, the wealthy clients bidding with casual entitlement. Emotional development peaked as mother and daughter locked eyes briefly in the restroom, recognition sparking tears and whispered reunions. "It's me. It's Mom," before Viper's rage interrupted, dragging them into a stark office where truth spilled out. Viper had knowingly purchased Emma 3 years earlier because of her rare blue eyes, tattooing them on his arm as a twisted trophy. Diana's unyielding love clashed with Viper's cold business calculus, her offer of money met with violence. Yet in that moment of crisis, a silent nod passed between mother and daughter, coordinating a desperate defense with a heavy glass ashtray. Sirens wailed in the distance as police, tipped by Diana's earlier call, stormed in, leading to a chaotic rescue where Emma struck her captor and Diana tackled Viper, allowing officers to secure the scene. This climax embodied universal wisdom from the Bhagavad Gita's call to fulfill one's dharma, duty, without attachment to outcomes, inspiring us to act rightly regardless of fear. For English education, this section models dialogue tags, emotional descriptors, and conditional sentences. If they suspect a raid, they'll move us. That improve conversational fluency and storytelling ability. The reflective takeaway is that love, when channeled through courage, can breach even the darkest fortresses of exploitation. What hidden strength within you awaits activation in the face of injustice affecting someone you love? The dramatic rescue at the dollhouse and compound unfolded in a blaze of police lights and coordinated raids, freeing 17 women including Emma while exposing Viper's admissions of knowingly trafficking a missing teenager. Yet the true victory lay in the mother-daughter reunion that began the long, inspiring path to healing and justice against a sprawling criminal network. As officers swarmed the property, Detective Wilson's team uncovered evidence linking the Iron Wolves to multiple locations across states like Tucson, Phoenix, and Albuquerque, validating Diana's 8-year map of red pins that authorities had once dismissed as coincidence. True historical parallels include the groundbreaking work of the FBI's Operation Cross Country, which has rescued hundreds of trafficking victims through targeted stings, demonstrating how persistent civilian tips combined with law enforcement action can disrupt organized crime, much like Diana's solo investigation provided the crucial breakthrough. Philosophically, this chapter invokes Immanuel Kant's moral imperative to treat people as ends in themselves rather than means, condemning the objectification Diana witnessed and celebrating her refusal to let Emma remain a commodity. In contemporary society, where awareness campaigns like the Blue Heart Initiative by the UN highlight trafficking's global scale, the story offers modern relevance by showing how ordinary individuals can drive change, while for English learners, it provides rich material for practicing reported speech. Viper admitted he had known Emma's identity, passive voice for new-style reporting, and vocabulary expansion with terms like hypervigilance, excessive alertness to danger, common in trauma. Survivors. Emotionally, the ambulance scene captured tender vulnerability, Diana wrapping a blanket around Emma's shoulders, their fingers intertwining in silent affirmation. As years of separation melted into cautious hope, Emma revealing fragments of her ordeal, abduction from the gas station, repeated sales between traffickers, and Viper's possessive branding. Diana's growth from isolated searcher to protective advocate shown as she negotiated space for Emma's recovery amid statements and medical checks, her own swollen cheek a small price for reunion. Vivid moments included Emma's quiet strength in offering details to aid other victims, echoing the resilience of real survivors who testify despite re-traumatization. Universal wisdom from Confucian teachings on filial piety and familial bonds underscores that true devotion transcends time and suffering, urging reflection on relationships we may take for granted. English learning connections emphasize reflective writing prompts and debate skills around ethics and justice, fostering empathy alongside language proficiency. As dawn broke over the desert, mother and daughter rode together under police escort, the golden light symbolizing renewal. This journey teaches that redemption and justice are possible when love refuses to yield. Will you choose to be the persistent voice that bridges loss and recovery in your own circle or community? Dawn's first light bathed the desert as Diana and Emma began their shared journey of healing in a protected hotel, where whispered conversations, therapy plans, and preparations for testimony against the Iron Wolves transformed 8 years of unimaginable separation into a foundation for renewed life, justice for other victims, and a powerful testament to a mother's unbreakable spirit. With Emma safely beside her, Diana listened as her daughter recounted the nightmare: drugged transport across state lines, multiple owners, and 3 years under Viper's control where her unique blue eyes became both curse and twisted obsession. Yet through it all, a spark of the determined girl remained, now channeled into helping identify traffickers and locations for upcoming FBI raids. Historically, this mirrors the long-term recovery efforts following the liberation of concentration camp survivors after World War II, or the reintegration programs for victims of conflict-related sexual violence in places like Bosnia, where sustained support and legal accountability proved essential for rebuilding lives and societies. Philosophically, Viktor Frankl's logotherapy from his Holocaust experiences teaches that meaning can be found even in suffering by choosing one's attitude and purpose, a lesson Emma embodied by committing to testify despite fear, and Diana by turning grief into advocacy. Modern relevance resonates strongly with global movements like #end trafficking and survivor-led organizations that emphasize trauma-informed care, while for English learners worldwide, the narrative models advanced narrative tenses, emotional vocabulary, cathartic release, unyielding dedication, and idioms such as turning the page, starting a new chapter after difficulty, or breaking the chains, freeing oneself from oppression, enabling richer discussions in classrooms, support groups, or online forums about resilience and social justice. Vivid character development showed Emma's guarded hypervigilance softening in her mother's presence, their hands linked as they watched the sunrise, while Diana's exhaustion gave way to quiet joy mixed with protective planning, arranging counseling, safe housing, and gradual reintegration. Emotional layers unfolded in tender exchanges, Emma admitting she sometimes hoped Diana had moved on to spare her pain, Diana affirming she never could, forging deeper bonds through honesty. Universal wisdom from the teachings of Nelson Mandela, who emphasized forgiveness paired with justice after decades of imprisonment, guides the path ahead, prosecuting perpetrators while healing hearts. As legal proceedings advanced and other women received aid, Diana reflected on how one tattooed glance in a pub had unraveled an empire of exploitation, proving that individual vigilance matters. For English practice, retelling such stories builds confidence in public speaking and writing advocacy pieces that inspire change. In the end, their story became one of hope reborn from despair. What chapter of renewal are you ready to begin today by refusing to let go of what truly matters, no matter how long the night has been?